What is public interest litigation policy in Kenya? How does that work for the common mwananchi? How can I benefit from that?
Okay, so as the name suggests, public interest litigation is you go to court. Litigation is you've gone to court to bring a dispute before the court. But this is a dispute that is in relation to the public interest, because many times when we go to court, we are pursuing personal or private interests.
Yes.
Something has happened, maybe there's been a breach of contract, maybe there's a property issue. So your interest is private or personal. That is the opposite of public interest. So public interest litigation, normally you find someone going to court on behalf of the public or a class of persons. And for public interest litigation, because the public that you're suing, you're not able to bring them into a room, tell them, please remove 5,000 shillings each so that we finance this case. Many times those cases are done on pro bono basis, which means the person who wants to sue in the public interest does it without having been paid fees, if it is a lawyer, or if it is an individual representative, like say Senator Okia Omtata, who does a lot of public interest cases. He takes up the case and he goes to court suing on behalf of a class of persons. The Constitution of Kenya in Article 222 and Article 258 allows a person to take a case regarding the Constitution to court on behalf of themselves, on behalf of another, on behalf of a class of persons, or on behalf of the public interest, which means now not just a class but general interest of the public. So that is what public interest litigation is. And the Law Society of Kenya has a public interest litigation directorate, as well as a committee that engages in public interest litigation, strategic litigation, and sometimes they may receive requests from lawyers or members of the public to litigate on certain matters. They will consider whether it fits their internal tests and requirements, and then they will decide to do it. And there are other institutions, organizations that also do public interest litigation, like Katiba Institute, Kituo cha Sheria, and so on.
Okay. So like maybe, for example, if I'm in a community and let's say there's a private investor that wants to grab a piece of land, I can approach any of these organizations you have mentioned and maybe just ask them to represent me, or is that how it works? Or I'd have to go to the courts myself, and how does that work?
Okay, first of all, there are many cases that there's a public element, but there's also private interest. So if you find there's a private interest, the best approach is you look for a lawyer, and the lawyer represents you and sues on your behalf. Sometimes there could be an interest of a class of persons, for example, residents of a particular area or others. So again, you bring together the residents, you mobilize, you get some fees, you hire a lawyer, and you go to court. Those are the traditional methods. But then there are some cases where you find that the people who are affected are a large number. You find that it is not easy to mobilize them, or you find that maybe you cannot afford the litigation yourself and you think that it qualifies as public interest litigation. Then you can look for one of the organizations that engages in public interest litigation and see whether by making a request, your request will qualify as public interest litigation that they will take up. But of course, the organizations will have their own internal test. If they decide not to take it up as PIL, then you'll have to revert back to the system of looking for a lawyer, fundraising, and then taking the case to court